There's always the... Hello, everybody. Hi, Low Carb Melbourne. Hello, Low Carb Lifestyle Long Weekend. It's lovely to be here with you all. If you're able to show up live and chat, that's fantastic. If you're watching on replay, fantastic too. So as I have told you tonight, I am chatting to the awesome Daniel Velardo, who is a great guy, a dad, an educator, a health and a running coach, and has so much knowledge to offer around, how to make low carb work when it comes to running and exercise. So Daniel, thanks for joining us.
Thank you very much, Tracey, and thanks for the introduction as well.
So Daniel, just so while people are jumping on, so of course, if you've got questions for Daniel, please put them in the comments. We've got a few things we want to sort of go through, and then if we've got time, we will get to the questions. Let us know where you're watching from. I know certainly the Low Carb Lifestyle Long Weekend is global, so I'd love to know where you're watching from. But yes, please put in your questions and we will answer them. But while we're waiting for people to come on, Daniel, I'd love you to share with everybody how you found low carb. It's a great story, and I guess it's unique because you are quite young, a lot younger than me. And really, especially young athletes, it's really not common that young athletes are in the low carb space. So I'd love you to share how you got into the low carb space.
Yeah, as you said, it is a little bit different. So my wife and I were pregnant with our first child, Anthony, and we're getting some blood tests done just for the genetic testing to see, if there's anything that we could potentially pass on to Anthony. And blood test came back all good, except for mine had low iron. So I never had a blood test before. Don't know how old I was. Would have been 28, I think, at the time. So I had a blood test with low iron, and the obstetrician basically said to me, "Are you vegetarian or anything like this?" And I said, "No, I'm eating meat." He goes, "Okay." He goes, "Well, just go get some tests done and see what could be the cause of low iron." So I went to the GP, who was essentially just saying this is extremely rare. Potentially you could have cancer in the gut, and you need to go and get some investigations done. So he put me onto a gastroenterologist, and this guy did all the procedures and everything. Everything came back clear. And I was trying to chat with the gastroenterologist and to tell him that, I'm running a fair bit. So to give you an idea, between 100 and 120K a week. And I said, runners lose a fair bit of blood through, foot strike hemolysis, through sweat losses as well. And he just didn't want to have a bar of it, essentially. Wasn't listening at all. And I'm like, nah, there's 100% sure there's nothing wrong with me. So did a bit more research, went to go see a sports doctor by the name of Adam Castricum at Sports Medicine Centre in Olympic Park there, and the best appointment of my life. So that guy basically changed my life on that day when I went to go and see him. And first thing he said to me was, "Hey, there's nothing wrong with you." He goes, he was the Olympic sports doctor for the Australian athletics team. And he goes, "It's extremely common." He goes, "Around 20% of endurance athletes have low iron and may need to supplement depending on their diet." He goes, "Did the gastroenterologist even touch your stomach or anything like that?" I said, "Nah, just put me straight into a procedure." And he goes, "Well, clearly he's just after some cash there." And Adam basically said to me, he goes, "How many times a week are you eating red meat?" And my response was once or twice. And he goes, "Why?" He goes, "Why aren't you eating it 4 to 5 times a week? For the amount that you're running, need to be increasing that." And I just said to him, I go, "Well, isn't red meat bad for you?" And he gave me the book of Fat Lot of Good by Dr. Peter Brookner. He goes, "Go have a read of this and then come back and see me another time." So picked up a copy of the book, just absolutely amazed at what I was reading. Everything contradicted all the stuff I learnt in university prior to that. So I became extremely interested, started doing further research, got in contact with Peter Brookner as well. And then from there, the journey just started. So I was just, absolutely amazed. And now it's changed a lot of things. And I would like to say that the performance has improved a fair bit as well.
Okay, so let's talk about the performance, because obviously prior to that, you were typical I'm guessing, a typical carb loader, like most of us are before we, get a bit of knowledge about our fuel systems. I mean, I was a personal trainer and I was never taught about fat for fuel. It was always carbs and carb loading. So you came across this knowledge, implemented. How, what was the thought processes around implementing it into your running? How did it look for you? And then we can go on and talk about, so how do we really get those two fuel sources working optimally in our body?
Yeah, I suppose the first thing is if you have a race coming up or anything like that, you don't want to change, just before a race. So you want to stick to what you're doing, and it does take a bit of time to adapt. But in terms of physiology, if we just go through some basic physiology and of substrate use during exercise. So we have liver glycogen, and there's also glycogen in our muscles. There are triglyceride stores in the muscle and fat, and we also get some energy from lactate oxidation as well. But the big thing is, we get roughly around 2,000 kilocalories from around our stored glycogen. And, that can last up to around 2 hours. Whereas fat, we can get around 90,000 kilocalories from about 10 kilos of fat. So everyone on them, even the skinniest person with, minimal body fat, has got enough fuel and fat on them to fuel them for any type of exercise for a very long time. So it's sort of, comparing petrol versus diesel in terms of, car fuel, whereas glycogen is the petrol and it can run out quicker, and diesel is the fat, which, can cruise for kilometers. In saying that, there's absolutely no doubt that glycogen is a premium fuel for high intensity activity. But we're talking very high intensity activity, and the everyday person and majority of us doing any exercise would not be hitting that at all. And there is, no need for the amount that people are consuming.
Yeah. So the adaptation phase is really important. I say, for example, if you look at you and I being quite 20 years apart or something like that. So if I were to change my fuel source, it's probably going to take me a little bit longer, and it did. So I was 40 when I I came into this, and I started switching over my fuel, and I reckon it took me a good 6 months to really get the fat adaptation going. So is that what you say? I mean, it's really individual, age, fitness level, how quickly we can let go of that whole eating before, because that's a really big mindset shift, isn't it? When we've had the banana and the yogurt and we run and we're sucking down the gels, and then we like, what, you mean we don't need to have any of that? It can take a while, can't it?
Yeah, I think that's a big thing you mentioned there, the mindset shift. It does take a lot of time just to, believe in the process and believe in the fact that, I don't need to be eating all this stuff, especially, just for a low intensity activity or moderate intensity, as whatever it is. But in terms of how long does it take to become fat adapted, it's very individualized, and it can take, research shows us anywhere between 6 weeks to 6 months. So some will get there a lot quicker, others will take a long time. So that's why, definitely don't recommend changing. If you got a month out before a particular event, you don't want to switch then. But personally, for me, I got lucky. It took me about 2 or 3 weeks for that to happen. I went strict keto for about 3 weeks, and then I realized that I needed just a bit more carbohydrate during my high intensity session. So I started supplementing with some real foods during that, and then I found the balance pretty quickly from there. And again, everyone's going to be individualized. So people ask me quite often, how many carbs do you have a day? Got no idea. Don't count it. You'll just learn what works for you. So that might be a couple bits of sweet potato or a banana, before a high intensity session, and the other days are fine. You're not eating anything at all. So it does change depending on the training that you're doing.
Absolutely. So why would we consider becoming fat adapted athletes? And I say athletes is anyone that moves, because really this is the potential. It's not just for people who are athletes. Anyone that moves has this ability to tap into these dual fuel sources. So what would be some of the benefits of us becoming fat adapted?
There's plenty of them. So, firstly, I think you make a good point there. Everyone doing activity right now who's watching this would be burning fat as our primary fuel source during low intensity activity. So some of the benefits, we get better fat oxidation. So our ability to burn fat and use that as a fuel is improved. There's a reduced need to top up on glycogen stores post-exercise, as our body's able to process that fuel better. Inflammation's a massive one. So inflammation is reduced a fair bit, and there's less oxidative stress after exercise, which means we can then feel better. We're not as sore. We can return to training more often, and improve our health benefits that way. So, we all know that carbohydrates cause a lot of inflammation, and we want to decrease that as much as possible. And I'm sure you've worked with plenty of clients, Tracey, where they've come to you trying to fix that, and low carb is definitely one of the massive benefits for that. The more fat adapted that you are, the quicker you're able to metabolize fats into energy. So generally, fat does require a bit more oxygen to break down than glycogen does. But as we become more fat adapted, we get better at that, and we're able to use fat at a higher intensity as well. So we do adapt over time. And the key things as well, we get better recovery, better health, better injury risk due to the inflammation getting down, and also our power to rate ratio is going to be better because we're able to maintain our weight at a better rate.
One of the biggest things I think, for a lot of runners, they talk about how the bonk, where you just hit a brick wall, which is very common for people who are carb loaders, because as you've talked about, there is very limited capacity to store, and once that's run out, unless you're sucking down enough, and it's quite a large amount, you've got to keep. Obviously, this is for a long distance, running, but how common that the bonk is, and really when you're burning fat for fuel and you've built that machinery, you can just go. And you talk about now, you go out for 27-kilometer runs on a Sunday, no water, which is not a problem. You have water, but you just go, nothing to eat, no water, and off you go.
Yeah, correct. So a lot of my runs now, especially the low intensity ones, it's fine. I've become adapted. Obviously the fitness is there as well, which will take a bit of time. But as you said, last Sunday was, standard 2-hour run, and that's just gone out. No breakfast or anything like that. As you said as well, no issue drinking water or electrolytes through it. But I just don't find I need it, especially now in winter when the weather's a bit cooler. So there's plenty of benefits there. And like some companies recommend drinking or consuming between 60 to 90 grams of carbohydrate per hour of exercise. And you just think about, to burn that, how hard you have to be working at what intensity. And the everyday person is nowhere near that intensity at all. So your elite athletes, like Eliud Kipchoge, for example, who's got the world record for the marathon, which is around 2 minutes 50 per kilometer, roughly. He's running fast. He's burning a lot of glycogen. He will need it. People who are trying to complete a marathon or complete a half or a 10K or a 5K, and their just aim is just to finish it, and they're not actually racing, there's no need for it at all. And you can get by with just having, real foods and low carb easily.
Yeah. And the other thing I've seen and personally experienced, and I know a lot of my clients has as well, is the lack of gastrointestinal distress. Isn't it an interesting, after a half or a full, so many people queuing up for the toilet because, it tends to do that. But I have noticed, since I have been eating this way, and I haven't eaten, before, I'm not a runner yet, I'm building back up to it. But with any of my training, I do weight training and I don't eat before I do it. But just something that I haven't experienced, and it's something I've read about as well. Is that something that you've seen as well?
Yeah, nerves can play a bit of a part for people if they're consuming caffeine. But other than that, 100%, there's none of that sugar that's within your stomach beforehand. That's just not messing with you and anything like that. So 100%, that is correct.
So talking about the risks then of potential excessive carbs. I mean, we've talked about obviously the benefits of going low carb, and if you reverse that, well, the risks, obviously are inflammation. But are there any other risks that you'd like to talk about that you see, particularly with, people that suck on Gatorades and all this sort of stuff that we're told, that we need if we're exercising?
Just for health, tooth decay, for example, is a massive one. You think about it, energy gel, roughly each brand of energy gel has around 26 grams of pure glucose into them. And that just goes straight into your teeth. And then as you just said, if you're washing it down with Gatorade or Powerade, again, they're just massive hits of sugar. So, we want to protect our teeth. Tooth decay is so big in Australia, which is crazy. You think about I think it was the 70s, they started introducing fluoride into the water, and they thought there'd be no dental problems ever again. But yet sugar beats fluoride, and we've got this massive issue of tooth decay. I think it's 1 in 2 children up to the age of 14 are experiencing tooth decay, and that's just children, which is quite scary. And you consider all the information we have today, and again, it's down to the amount of sugar we're having. So, is one gel going to affect you? Absolutely not. But if you're taking them daily or, weekly, and you're taking, for example, a cyclist who might be going out for a 3 or 4 hour bike ride, they might be consuming anywhere between 6 to 8 in one ride, which is just a fair amount.
Yeah. I agree. I think we've touched on, because I was going to ask you, is there a difference between endurance versus high intensity? And you said in the beginning, certainly for you, that you found that you had to find that balance with a bit of carbs for the high intensity work. But you also said, look, for most people, and this is what I said, for most everyday people as well, it's probably not essential. I think there has to be a little bit of trial and error, but also just, expecting that adjustment that you're not going to go straight into the same capacity that you were, but your body will adapt over time. I mean, was there anything else you wanted to add around that people might be aware of in terms of that?
Yeah, when making the first switch, you're going to feel horrible for that the first few sessions. So it is going to be difficult at the start, and you probably think to yourself, "What the hell am I doing here? This is just crazy." And the first few speed sessions I tried, I just had nothing. So I couldn't hit any of my normal paces or anything like that. But I just knew, just be patient. It'll come through. And for me, it came within 2 weeks. And then I just couldn't believe it, how quickly, I just didn't need to have heaps of fuel anymore during a speed session. So when we're talking about high intensity, for those who are, let's just say, for example, you're training for a long endurance event, anywhere between, for a 5K to a marathon, most of your trainings, or 80% of your training, should be at low intensity anyway. This is what the elites do as well. So it's an 80-20 principle, where we've got 80% of our runs are at low intensity, and potentially 15 to 20%, depending on how your program's structured, would be at high intensity. Now, that high intensity might look different for everyone. And that's where you potentially may need to top up if you're doing some interval work, or if you're doing some speed work, where your aim is to work above your lactate threshold for your body. Your body's, to improve the ability to clear lactate in the blood. When you're working above 85 to 90% of your max heart rate, then yes, carbohydrates would definitely be beneficial and needed as well. However, back to the everyday person, how often would they be operating at that? Hardly any. So, and I think it's just, as you said, with the experimentation, you do learn pretty quickly what works for you. And, trial and error is important. It's going to be different for everyone, how the body responds. But, I think the key thing is you can definitely get away from the gels. You can, be using just real foods like sweet potato, some bananas beforehand, or the night before, just a little bit of a top up. And I'm not talking about a crazy amount, just a little bit with your normal food that you have, and that should be substantial.
Yeah, Yeah. Got a couple of questions here I might go to, if that's all right, and then we can get back to the other ones. Melissa has said, hi there, I've been low carb keto for over 2 years and I believe I am fat adapted. I have run a half marathon fasted and with just having water and Revy caffeine strips.
Yep.
I am now training for my first marathon and wondering if I may need to start incorporating some fat fueling as I increase the kilometers.
Good question. So first, the Revy caffeine strips, they're excellent. So they're great to use. Caffeine is probably one of the only supplements that is legal for running that is being advised to be used. So the benefits of caffeine have a benefit on basically just a psychological benefit where towards the end of a race, it doesn't seem as hard as it is. So yeah, caffeine is definitely recommended if you can stomach it. Do you need to be taking on fuel throughout it? It all depends on what pace you're trying to run at and what your goal is. So if your goal is to complete it, you may not need anything at all. If you feel like you need something towards the end, actually mint, what are they called? Like their cough, not a minty, for example, or methyl, anything like that has effect on the brain. It's been proven to make things easier. So you could just have like something like that if it's a psychological effect. However, in terms of fueling, it all comes down to the intensity that you're running at. So if you are pushing the boundaries towards the end, you definitely you can have something. However, you should be fine if you're just trying to complete a goal. Again, it just all becomes on your average pace that you're trying to complete and at what pace you're trying to do it at.
Yeah, great. Another question here is, what's your view on metabolic flexibility before a half or full marathon, i.e. some such veg like sweet potato with your protein, the higher, I think that's supposed to be the night before so that you can use both for fuel for running for next day, which you kind of really answered, but was there anything else you could add to that one?
Yeah, definitely no issue at all. So if you're metabolically healthy, definitely go for it. If you're doing a hard session, and I mean a speed session, include some sweet potatoes, some potatoes, or anything else that you like, carrots, pumpkin. These are all good sources of some glycogen that we can put into our bodies to keep fueling ourselves. There's no issue with that at all. Yeah, that's definitely the way to go. And, you'd rather be supplementing with that in using real foods as opposed to actual supplements.
But again, that's kind of a preferential thing, isn't it? Like you could say that if you've got enough time to train, certainly for the half, you may not even need that either. Is that kind of so what do you think? It's a bit of a personal thing, but if we look at the physiology, do we need to do that?
No, physiologically, no, not at the pace that majority of us would be running at. However, it goes back to the mindset of, some people will freak out. Okay, it's 21 kilometers, for example, for a half marathon. I might be out there for 2 hours or 3 hours. We've all been taught that whole thing of you've got to have 6 meals a day, breakfast, lunch, dinner, and then 3 snacks. And you go speak to, dietitians, they tell you to keep your protein up every 2 or 3 hours, keep snacking, keep that happening. So it is a tough thing mentally to try and get your head around of, I can actually run here without anything. The thing I will say is electrolyte tablets are extremely useful. Especially with being low carb, you will find that your salt intake especially is going to be lower because the processed foods contain a lot of salt and sodium. And if you cut that out of your diet and you're eating a real food, low carb diet, you will need to supplement a bit with some electrolyte tablets. And there's plenty out there that are zero carbs. And, they're great to take. And again, they can have a good effect. Some of them have caffeine in there. Some of them don't have caffeine. But yeah, highly recommend getting yourself some of them, especially during a half marathon and marathon as well.
Yeah. Well, I love the LMNTs. I know we've had this chat about electrolytes. What's the ones that you use, Daniel? Are you able to say?
Yeah, I just use the Cisco Hydro tablets. I just find they've been working for me. So I haven't tried any other brands since then, but yeah.
So the tablets are ones that you can actually have during the race. So that'd be the difference, obviously, with the powder that you have to have in a drink. So do you have
it's the same. So the powder, so the tablets I've got, drop them into the the water,
Okay.
and it just dissolves into it. So it just makes it easier to carry around because it's just a tube. But yeah, the capsules, I've seen them as well. But yeah, like personally, I love using them because it's, you have them at drink stations. You can set your own drinks up and, get the concentration as hard as you want. But if you are looking for some electrolyte powders or tablets, just have a look at the ingredients in them. So, sodium, magnesium, potassium are things to look for within that. And we just want to make sure that we're getting enough in there. So some of them will have a really low sodium count. You want to make sure you're getting at least over 200 to 250 in there. But some brands will vary a fair bit. So I think CIS is around 350 milligrams, and they've got some potassium and magnesium in there as well.
Yeah, that's good advice. Someone's asked, what about therapeutic ketones?
Yeah, in terms of what?
Fuel, I'm guessing.
Yep. So again, it's pretty similar to, with the low carb. So with ketones, it just means how our body's ability to process that. And if we're running on ketones, that means you're in ketosis. So great, go for it. You will feel, a lot of people have reported feeling excellent. Personally, I haven't experienced running with ketones. So I've tested blood levels and stuff and haven't had them been that low. But yeah, there's no issue because you're still running on fat as a fuel. So as long as your intensity is, sub-maximal or moderate, you'll be fine with it and absolutely go for it. Plenty of benefits that people have been reporting on that.
So do you think they mean exogenous? So you're talking about exogenous ketones, so a drink, or are you talking about endogenous? So, the ones that our body would be making.
I was talking about, in our body that we'll be making. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Because I'm just wondering if this question, they're talking about, would it be beneficial taking exogenous ones? So, taking drinking ketones for energy. You there?
Yep. Sorry, you just cut out. What was?
Oh, did I? Sorry.
Yeah. Was it me or you?
I don't know. As long as you're still here. No, exogenous ketones. Do you know anyone that's used exogenous ones as fuel, for running, long distance running?
No, I haven't. Just
no. Okay.
All I'm aware of is with the electrolytes that people have been using, and I've had experience in that. Couldn't comment on the other things.
No, and my thought would be, well, your body's got, as we said, such a capacity, and it is about giving it time to work. And I tell a funny story of my colleague Jackie Montefiore, who's in the group. She's probably not watching it tonight, but when she found low carb, because she was a runner, she found low carb, and I think she'd been eating it for a few days. Fantastic, going to go for a run, and she literally, it was just wow, no fuel whatsoever. And it is so important that people do understand that, while you're switching over, you've cut out your carb source. Your body does take time, to adapt it. So if you change that, and as you say, I just see it so much, and people are like, oh, it doesn't work. And it's like, no, you just haven't given it time, for your body to do it. Do give it time. Don't expect it to be like it was when you were on carbs.
Yeah. And that was the thing I stressed before. Like I felt horrible for the first few sessions, and I did question, like, what the hell am I doing? But you really need to stick at it and be patient, because the benefits do come.
Yeah, your body is amazing. Question from Dr. Avi. I stopped fueling and ran 24 kilometers last week and felt fine. Did I have I think she's asking, should I have electrolytes? Or no, did have electrolytes. Okay. So I don't think there's actually a question there. I think she's just saying that she's run without any fuel for 24 Ks and just had electrolytes.
Not surprised at all.
Yeah.
So again, as as your fitness improves as well, you'll be, aerobically stronger, which improves your mental health as well, in terms of just your confidence, your ability to believe that I can actually run this, no problem at all. So well done, Avi. That's great, fantastic to hear. And I'm with the marathon training coming up, I'm sure she'll be doing a fair few more of them every Sunday. So well done, excellent work.
Yeah, Yeah, she will. How do you spell the name of the supplements that you use, Daniel?
Oh,
The
so science
Cisco?
in sport. Yeah, so science in sport. It's just SIS, and then the Go Hydro is called. So science in sport. If you Google that, they're actually at Coles as well. Sell them. So they're just if
Okay.
you
I've seen them, yeah.
they come in a tube of 20. There's about I think it's roughly around 9 calories per tablet, and there's about maybe 1 gram of carb if that, and hardly anything, or zero point 0.1, something like that. So
Yeah.
berry is my personal favorite flavor, but they've got lemon available, and I think it's strawberry and lime as well. So a few options
Okay.
there.
Awesome. Getting quite a few comments of people saying just how amazing it is when that kicks in and you feel that just how awesome that fuel source is. Lots of
Just to
happy
give you,
people.
just to give people an idea as well. Like, I've been running long distance for a very long time now, and before changing, I would take 2 or 3 gels every long run easily. Roughly around every 8Ks. It's got to the point now where, as I said, every Sunday generally is around a 2 hour run, and that's just no fuel at all. If weather gets a bit warmer, I might get some fluid in, but that's it. Like it's crazy once you believe that you can do it, and once you do it the first time, just how easy it is.
And that belief is a huge thing. And, I think it is just, you've looked at the science, you just got to trust your body now. And, it might take a bit of time, but it is amazing. I was just there was another question here. I saw, but it's gone. That's okay. So let's talk then about what a running coach does.
Yep. So probably one of the main things is when people come to me and I give them a program, so I'll be surprised that they're like, "Oh, I was actually training harder than that. Your program seems easy," and I'm like, "Well, it's just about I guess how the intensity is distributed." So as I was saying to you before, we don't want to be going out there smashing out every single time and running as hard as we can. We're going to get no benefit for that. So
Yeah.
a lot of, as I was saying before, in terms as well before, where it's 80% we want to be at low intensity, 20% at a higher intensity effort. So what a run coach can do, effective programming, which is going to reduce your injury rate. It's going to hopefully make you enjoy it a bit more because you're getting some benefits out of it. It should give you a fair bit of confidence within the program and give you that confidence that you'll be able to handle the distance in no issue. So we offer as well return to run programs. So people who've been injured or haven't ran for ages, we don't want them going out for long runs. You want to return to run programs. So that might look like something as simple if you've never ran before or coming back from injury. Might be 1 minute run, 1 minute run, 1 minute walk for a couple of weeks, and once you get that load built into your muscles and on your bones, you then become confident. You can increase that because you don't want to get injured. And I think this is a few issues that people have got these great goals they want to complete, and you just got to respect the distance, respect the process, be patient, and the body does adapt very quickly, especially if you're coming from a zero fitness base. Your ability to adapt pretty quickly, you'll get some quick gains. In terms of the higher end, if you're looking, to let's just say you want to run, 3.5 hour marathon, we can try and pace you for that and get you the right training for that. But yeah, so any distance is covered within that as well.
Yeah. So we have a group, which is the Low Carb Melbourne. So obviously those of us who are in Melbourne are welcome to join if you want to do it. And I think if it's something that you've ever, I'm talking here, I suppose, to people who are watching it and just a little bit curious, what a great opportunity to do it with someone like Daniel. He can help you get there. And it's not about having to run. Sometimes I think we tell ourselves we can't do it because we have to run some incredible time. I mean, it doesn't have to be about that. I think it's just we can feel the benefits of running and be really just doing it quite slowly. That is me, and that is my goal, to be able to run 10Ks now injury free, because I'm one of those ones that have had recurrent calf injuries, and you're helping me, which is fantastic. And you get that. One thing we didn't talk about is those huge endorphins, and just that, I do it for my mental health. I just think it's just, there's so much freedom. I started running when I had my first babies, so I was about 27, and it was just such freedom. I put my things in my ears and off I went, and I've never lost that joy. I think there's so many benefits. So what a great opportunity for people to do it. And then if you're you want to go to that next level, you've done the half, you're ready to do the marathon, get a coach to help you. The last thing you want is to fall over at the hurdle just before and have an injury. And as Daniel said, there's so many people, we see it all the time, they go out too hard, that they're training too hard, so by the time they get to the race day, they're just they're knackered and they get injured. So we want
to be one of the key things I often say is just we want to train smarter, not harder. So just utilize the time that we have, and I guess the benefit as well of a coach is things are planned for you, so it saves a bit of time in terms of programming. You don't have to worry about that as well. But yeah, definitely all the stuff you said as well, Tracey. And the Melbourne course is a great starting point because it's relatively flat. Unless you're running the marathon, there's a beautiful hill at the 37k mark, which you just want to curse. But other than that, the rest of it is it's a great opportunity, and you get to finish inside the MCG as well, which is pretty inspiring if you're a sports fan, being able to run on the turf and finish in in that fantastic stadium. So definitely encourage everyone to go into it. Yeah, exactly right.
I think I did I think it was it Run Melbourne? It was one of the ones that ran onto but it was the first year I did that. And it was the most amazing feeling running into that ground, that MCG. And I loved it. I loved it. So we just need COVID to behave itself. But even if it doesn't, look, the journey is, we get so much out of the journey. So, don't worry about that. Don't focus on that. Just, focus on getting out there and getting moving. And what a great way to just sort of get rid of the COVID cobwebs and do something together. And fantastic offer. You've been so helpful. I actually just want one quick question. Someone's asking if I can just ask you quickly. Someone's just asked that electrolytes you mentioned, could it break a fast? Or is it just pure electrolytes?
That's a very good question.
It is a good question.
Could it break a fast? Technically, yes, it can, because it has like the slightest of sugar in it. It's like, I literally think it is 0.1 grams within there. So it's about 9 calories all up. So yeah, in the technical definition, yes, it will. How much would it raise your blood glucose levels? Very, very minimal. So I guess, that's, even with the hydro tablets, again, I think personally for me, it just depends on how hot and how long the run is. So, especially in summer when it gets warm, I'll definitely be taking them a fair bit. But like, for example, right now in winter, I'll only take them after a run that's probably an hour or more when I come back. So I wouldn't be using it during the run itself. So the run itself is still fasted, and just using that as part of recovery.
Yeah, awesome.
And again, that's also a really good thing to do. People talk about carbo loading. It's also good to have a hydro tablet the night before a big event, like a half marathon or a marathon, where you want to get that salt intake a bit higher as well, because we will go through that within the race.
Yeah, I often say that have it before, like the ones you have before are really helping. The one when you have it after, it's just catching up. So yeah, that's such a good idea to do that.
And a good thing just to monitor as well is, everyone sweats salt at a different rate. So it depends, when you come back, if you've got like white stains on your top or on your face or anything like that, it's just a good way to monitor how much salt you are losing. You can actually get pads and stuff to try and work it out scientifically, but just having a look at what your clothes look like. You might have salt stains on your neck or on your forehead, as I said before, and that'll give you a good indication of how much sodium, if you're a heavy salt sweater or if you're not.
Yeah, awesome. I better let you go.
There is a
Excellent.
website. It's just in the middle of it's being
Yeah,
fixed, so I won't give
yeah.
people that yet because it's a bit of an issue at the
No.
moment.
All right, no problem.
I'll
I
fix
will
that.
put your email address in the comments for people to get in touch with you. Thanks for the chat. Awesome. Love talking about this subject because I think, yeah, it's just one of those ones that people kind of put in a box over there and don't, there's a lot of misinformation out about there, especially because we know there's a lot of people making a huge amount of money off, things that we don't really need. How good was the Coke that got moved?
From
Ronaldo.
Ronaldo.
Funny. Whether that, I don't know if it's true or not, but whether the share price dropped. But he's so right. We don't need that stuff, and it shouldn't be associated with sport because it really isn't. Yeah. Anyway, thanks, Daniel. It was great to talk to you. Thanks, everyone, for your comments. We'll do it again soon.
No problem.
Bye.
Thank you very much. See you later.